So let's talk about David Copperfield, 1999, which was the on-screen debut of Daniel Radcliffe. What were your first impressions of him?
His eyes, that boy's eyes, those beautiful blue eyes. He was absolutely adorable. I didn't meet him before I saw him as David Copperfield, and his face was perfect, and that's what he was cast for, because he had not done any acting. He'd maybe had one small part. And Simon Curtis, who discovered him because he directed David Copperfield, Simon Curtis, who is a director and a producer and husband of Elizabeth McGovern, Lady Grantham, and also the director of The Woman in Gold and Goodbye, Christopher Columbus, and lots of other films. He was directing David Copperfield. He'd cast Maggie Smith, and they were looking for David Copperfield. They could not find him. And his one of Daniel's parents is a casting person, I think. And somehow they said, well, there's Daniel. And apparently Daniel came to the audition, and the way Simon tells it, he walked in front of Simon, as you do, and he sat down in the chair. And as he walked past Simon said, he winked. I thought, whoa. And he sat down, he did his audition. And Simon said, yeah, he's the kid. Cast him. He did fine, although he never did any take the same twice, because he wasn't a trained actor. Sometimes he would disappear. Simon tells the story of, where's David? They're ready to shoot. Daniel, he's gone, and they found him. He was sitting down at a pond, kind of watching some fish. And so Simon said, he kind of sat next to him and said, Dan, you'll probably never again in your life have a part this big or work with people like this. You got Maggie Smith. Why don't you just come back and let's do the scene, because this is really the experience of a lifetime. Yeah, Harry Potter. He did have another chance. I asked him, Daniel Radcliffe, a few years ago about that. Is that how you got the part, because you gave him a wink? He said, no. He said, when I'm really nervous, I kind of have a twitch in my eyes sometimes, so I just twitched. I would never have winked. So cute. And he was a great kid. He came over to do publicity with Simon. Simon was really good with him. And we would sit down in front of 1,000 people and answer questions. I think Daniel was then 8, maybe 10, but he was very young. But he would sit up in his little suit and answer questions. His feet didn't even touch the floor, sitting in the chairs. He was very, very self-possessed, not at all arrogant, and his parents were always with him. He always wrote thank you notes. He's a very, very nice guy.
And I had actually read that it was his association with Maggie from that
Maggie
production.
Too. Yes, Maggie said to Simon, pay attention to this guy, this kid. And their scenes are just great.
Yeah. And I think she's the one who recommended him for Harry Potter, is what I read.
Well, success has 1,000 mothers.
Exactly.